Fixing my marriage. I am going through a terrible phase, having screwed up and facing consequences of my own actions. I am married, early 30s, both of us. I met a man, also married and one kid, at work and would occasionally chat with him, go for coffee. Once we went for drinks and he told me he is attracted to me and wants to sleep with me. I think that acted like a huge ego boost to me and I fell for him. After that, it was a limerence kind of phase. I always wanted to talk to him, be with him, had thoughts about him, lost some focus at work, forgot how to be a wife at home. Forgot my family, etc. I told him after a few days of the drinks meeting that I also had feelings for him and am attracted to him. He listened carefully to me. Of course, he is the kind who is more than happy to have fun, one time or a few times, and forget the woman, however. He did mention to me that if he and I were to be involved physically, then I would not be the same person in his eyes, since I am not the kind of woman who is involved in one-night things. He mentioned he values my friendship and therefore we should try and not to get involved physically. I agreed, but I do have physical feelings for him. I also feel a little rejected since I know I am attractive to a lot of men in general, but this man did give me very valid reasons for us not to sleep with each other. So, I controlled the feelings. Then he left the job to move to another job and we still meet 2 to 3 times a week. Earlier it would be 5 times a week. Every day after work. We talk a lot of stuff. Work, career development, sometimes our spouses, but nothing private, health, etc. I feel like I am the one head over heels with him and it is hurting me that he does not show his feelings as much. I know I shouldn't feel that way, but I have these feelings. Now, all of this made me think about how terrible I have been to my husband and I want to end the feelings I have for this man but want to keep the friendship. I value his input in my life, he is very respectful, wise, etc. I am thinking of having a chat with him next week and telling him that I am hurt he rejected me physically. I still have feelings. I will control my feelings and focus my energy on my husband, but he will always be close to my heart. I will end up destroying myself if I keep going on with feelings for him. He also wanted me to be someone like a wing woman for him to pick up women who are interested in one-night stands. I am thinking of helping him now. I was not able to help him before because I had feelings for him and it was hard to imagine him with other women. Any thoughts on the chat that I plan to have with him? I have a wonderful marriage and husband and I don't know why I did this. Hope I can find an answer eventually. I feel terrible. I haven't had the energy to focus on anything since the last 48 hours. I have cried and have slept in my bed for almost 35 out of 48 hours. I had no one, no place to turn to, which is why I decided to post here to receive a well-deserved kick in the butt. Which I have received, and pushed me to reality. I don't blame the guy. If anything, I have been willing in all the conversations. He has helped me through some rough patches at work, life in general, etc., and it is hard to forget all of that. I did make an appointment for therapy and would like to explore why I needed that ego boost. Attention, I am very curious about what the outcome will be. I am terrified at the outcome after telling my husband. I know I should have thought about this before the whole situation, but I am only human and I was swayed by my feelings. It makes me wonder, what if I cut all my feelings for him and he does the same? Is it not possible to have a normal friendship without the exclusive meetings, etc.? He is a wonderful person otherwise, and I believe we all make mistakes. All my remorse is stemming from the fact that I feel terrible about what I did to my husband. I don't really care how I screwed up my feelings. I think the larger problem for me is why I allowed this whole episode to unfold. I have signed up for therapy and I have no idea why this happened. I do get the attention and love in marriage. What am I looking for? There are obviously larger questions to answer. The man has been nice to me, really nice. I don't entirely blame him for the situation, after all. I am a consenting adult in his situation. Therefore, I feel I owe it to him to speak the truth before ending contact. As for my husband, I have decided to tell him too. I am selfish. I believe in learning from mistakes. Of course, this is more than a mistake, but I am going to use the opportunity to talk to a therapist and dig out why I even went down this route in the first place. I am in terrible emotional pain here. I do understand situations like these often call for harsh responses from others. I still believe we are all human and we do go through such situations. The learning and remorse is what makes us better persons. Going forward, comments. If we look at this from any reasonable angle, it is apparent that your decisions are significantly lacking rational thought. Additionally, anyone who states that they do not know why they did something, especially something of this magnitude, is further indicating their lack of intellect. People who do things without a reason are, by definition, Unreasonable. If someone acts without rational, cognizant thought, they are behaving irrationally. A life without reason and rationale is chaotic. Not only to the individual but to those around them as well. Have you given thought to the fact that if the other man had not rejected you, then you would have nuked your precious young family and possibly his as well? What you need to seriously consider is why. This is not rational thinking, and until you can recognize that you are destined to continue on in this behavior. I do not know what brought you here, but coming to this forum is the most intelligent move you have made thus far in this debacle. If you heed the advice given here and, more importantly, understand why the advice is pertinent, then you may be able to overcome your irrational, unreasonable behavior and actually become a good wife and mother. There is much wisdom and experience on this forum, but it is useless if it is not utilized. So, the question then becomes, do you want to better yourself as an adult, in a mature relationship, or do you wish to continue acting as a child, whose eye is caught by every shiny new toy they come across? Sincere deep feelings are not like a light switch, they cannot be switched on and off at a whim. Therefore, the feelings you have for this man are almost certainly physical, superficial and not deeply rooted. You must consider the possibility that you may not be capable of the deep emotional feelings needed to constitute love. I say this because you have indicated that you were ready and willing to be intimate with this other man. Then where were the feelings for your H during this time? The love you have for him? Does it actually exist? Also, you continue to have feelings for the other man. Why not switch them off as you did the feelings for your H when you were ready to bed this other man? It is quite clear that you are not thinking any of this through to its ultimate conclusion, and that is not intelligent. You indicated that you were saddened by the other man's rejection because you are an attractive woman. So is it beauty that is the reason for bonding? Or is it a deep emotional connection that is shared between a H and a W that makes intimacy so rewarding? The other man may have realized that if you slept with him he would now see you as promiscuous, cheap and lacking in virtue. Why would you not see that? Conversely, he may just be playing you as he would a game of chess, waiting to checkmate. Then do you know what happens? Game over. You also mentioned that other man has given you such support and you value him as a friend. If he is such a good friend, why was not his first piece of advice to suggest that you not become emotionally involved with men that are not your age, him included? Additionally, if you are such a good friend to him, then how could you act as his wingman and allow him to possibly destroy his own marriage and become involved with other women who may also be married and possibly destroy their families as well? Do you not see how irrational these thoughts are? OP responds, I took a very courageous step and I am back to report my progress and also obtain your feedback. I sat my husband down and told him we need to get close. Take a break from work. Not let stress get to us. I told I wanted us to be more intimate. I then went a step ahead and told him I got close to a colleague since we were both so busy with work and me spending 9-10 hours a day at work, and I ended up talking a lot to a colleague. I also told my husband I spoke nothing intimate with him or even touched him. Let him touch me. My husband was shocked, little confused but mostly understanding. He said these things happen more than people realize. We are planning a 1-week getaway, just the two of us. Next month, I am relieved to say the very least. And of course, thank you all for pushing me to have this conversation. I used up all of my Sunday morning. As for my colleague, I think I will let him know that we had gone too far and that I want to cut all the conversations we used to have and act as adults and be respectful of our own lives and spouses. In my next post, I will clarify some of the statements, questions that many of you have accurately pointed out. I keep going back to the days all this started. We were normal colleagues and I did not mean for any of this to happen. As why as this might sound, it is true. I still have to get to the root cause, which I will be exploring with a therapist in the coming days and weeks. I also used this opportunity to read about emotional affairs and came across terms such as limerence and dopamine. Love addiction. These terms definitely sounded close to the feelings I was having. I am ashamed and guilty of allowing all these feelings to cloud my mind and heart. I had ceased to be a wife, daughter, sister, friend, colleague in the past few weeks since I got close to the other man, early June, which has been about a month now. In my prior posts, I have not even been able to think, let's write, clearly, which is why my teenage thinking is so very clearly visible. I am not justifying anything, just cautious of what I have been doing. Something tells me my colleague has been honest with me. Yes, he has cheated on his wife. He took time away from his son to be with me at work, or sometimes coffee. But he was honest to God with me while he was with me. We never spoke about intimate life details or about our spouse. We were like buddies, but that one took the emotional energy away from our respective spouses too. Made us spend a lot of time with each other. We never touched each other. Not even a finger was laid on me or vice versa. I did admit to him that I was attracted to him and should thank my stars that he refused, otherwise I would be in a different situation today. He sees me as a valuable friend, confidante. After his wife. As mentioned before, he did mention once he wanted to sleep with me, but that never came up again. I know many of you here have said it is a game, but my mind does not believe that. I feel he has been truthful and honest all the while. Maybe he played me, but I played him as well. I will be disillusioned if I realize I was wrong here. Which is why I would like to talk to the guy and figure out the truth. I remember blurting out to him once that I welcomed the idea of being married to him. Again, wrong move on my part, I realize, to which he said he is married and that is not even an option. I understand talking to him may be a bad idea. Oh well, terrible idea. But I am feeling disoriented in my life now, knowing I did not even see all the small things that have been pointed here. I have strong feelings for other men. I don't understand how everyone here believes that can never happen. Are we saying it is not possible? There is a lot of literature available on this topic and it is a gray area for sure. I understand we should not act on our feelings, which I did to some extent by having conversations, going for coffee, spending time inside the office, but that was it. We never touched each other. Well, he never touched me, and I swear to God, we did have opportunities. Quite a few. This is one of things that makes me think he was honest with me. Comments: the only reason you did not have sleep with the other man is that he put up a barrier. If he would have not put up the barrier, you would have completed the 100% betrayal. You are a foolish, weak woman that has very little understanding of real life. The other man probably does have some good qualities, but so does your husband. One difference in your teenage fantasy is that you have not lived with the other man. You just feast your imagination on your fantasy romance feeling for this other man. You do not realize that if this man and you were to get together, that he would have to put up with your selfishness, your vulnerability for fantasy, and the fact that he knows that you have proved that you will betray your husband and children for some emotional spikes and feelings. Those are just a few, and I did not even mention all the things that life brings married couples that are not a fantasy. You just think about the other man's actions that make you feel good and do not consider his bad points, betray of his wife and child for one, that you would see if you had to live life with him and face all of life's reality without the fantasy. You have coffee and talk to this other man for a month. You know almost nothing about a long-term life with this man, and you then betray your husband and children. So how much trust and love do you think that deserves? You do seem like a woman that wants to try and make things better. Here is one thing that you can do to start to repair the damage. You write a letter with your husband watching and send it to the other man and tell him to never have any contact with you again, and that you realize that you were a teenage foolish girl that lived in fantasy land. Also tell the other man if he tries to contact you will go to his wife and tell her and everyone else that would make him face his selfishness. You will be very lucky if you can get through this. Keep your marriage and keep the permanent damage to your relationship with your husband to a minimum. The fact that you still have a teenage emotional strong attachment to the other man means that you are still betraying your husband and giving to the other man what should only be for your husband. You have rejected your husband and replaced him with your romance novel fantasy man. You had better get a good MC, and then you had better follow his instructions no matter how you feel. Your feelings are weak and unworthy of discernment. If you do the right things for a very long time, years, and your husband is a strong and forgiving man, then you can save your marriage and maybe have a good relationship. A week later, OP responds, I met my therapist today. I am happy I got that going. We will see how that works for me. I haven't met the guy for 5 days now. He sent me a text, usual hello types, and I just responded as I would to other colleagues or friends. One thing I realized, as I was talking in therapy today, is that this surge of feelings has mostly been from my side only. I know my colleague mentioned that he wants to sleep with me, but I don't count that anymore since it could be a pickup line just to get me going. Aside from that one comment, he did not make any other comment or move that makes me feel I am the one head over heels, and I have started to stop the thoughts in my head. My therapist is also helping me with this since I mentioned it as one of my goals. By soaking myself further into work, planning other goals, vacation with the husband, etc. I feel like a fool for allowing these feelings to cloud me, but I also realize there may be deeper rooted issues I have to address. Fortunately or unfortunately, this experience has brought some issues to the surface. I now have to find a way to address them. Story 2. What is happening? Mine is a long, maybe familiar story, but since everyone's story is different, I will try to hit the highlights. Met my wife in high school, dated 5 years, married almost 18 years now. We love each other very much, but... Background: married years 1 to 10 in love, wonderful, 2 kids, nothing's ever perfect, but we're like 2 peas in a pod, bed life is up and down. Years 11 to 13, she takes a very stressful job and has trouble coping with the stress. She starts to withdraw meds with alcohol. Bed life goes in the toilet. I start to withdraw more. Don't know how to help her. So we begin to disconnect. Years 14 to 15 of marriage, wife becomes deeply depressed, struggled with depression before, but never this bad, bedridden outside of work. Becomes alcoholic, won't take medication. I try to help, but eventually I get worn down by this and completely disconnect and focus on myself, working out, bettering myself, taking care of our kids and the house, etc. Neglect her. But at the same time, she seems okay with this, as long as I'm not asking her to do the laundry, dishes, or take her meds and alcohol away. Year 16, she comes out of this depression and starts working out, feeling better about herself. Posting pretty pictures of herself on her profile on an online game she plays on her phone, gets attention of lots of guys on there. She is stunning in her profile pictures. Meets one guy in particular and starts an emotional affair with him, texts with him and sends dozens of bad pictures of herself to him. Never meets him in person. Also has similar encounters with others, but nothing like this one guy. He's the one. Coinciding with the beginning of this affair, she starts telling me she needs space. Loves me but not in love with me anymore. Wants to separate. I counter with, if you want to separate, I want a divorce. At the time, I was not interested in anything but fixing our marriage, certainly not sitting around wondering if she's having an affair or dating myself. At that point, I'm still very much in love with her, hoping she will feel better soon and we can be happy again. Well, eventually, I find out about the affair and tell her to stop or I am divorcing her. She says she will. Continues anyway, trying to hide it from me. I can sense something is still not right. And find out a couple months later she has carried on with him. And it has only intensified with the content of the pictures, progressing to pics of herself and dirty texting. I tell her it's over and consult with lawyers, ready to start the process of divorce. She says she will stop. Please don't end our marriage. She loves me. She's sorry, etc. I agree to stay and work on things, but find out a few months later she is back at it again. At this point, it's been going on almost a year. She tells me she's in love with him and that she knows her affair isn't real life, that their relationship isn't real, but doesn't know how to turn off her feelings for this guy. I tell her it's over and don't feel romantic toward her at all anymore. At this point, I am feeling very numb toward her. But I do still love her and care about her as a person, almost like I would my own daughter. I feel like she is mainly hurting herself with all this stuff, because this guy she's having an affair with clearly has no intentions of ever meeting her, and is just using her for porn at this point, and I am pretty sure at this point, for her, it has all been one big ego trip gone wrong. So I am ready to break ties and move on from her. While she is prepping to move out, I go on a couple of dates and actually meet someone with whom I click. Not romantically, but personality-wise. I start talking to this person on the phone, and my wife finds out. Well, this changes everything. My wife becomes a wreck. She wants to work on our marriage, crying, sobbing, loves me, in love with me, don't want to move out anymore, etc. I tell her I don't feel comfortable being her husband, basically. The trust is not there for us to be married anymore. She tells me there is nothing to live for anymore. I am the perfect man. I think about it for a couple of days while she lies in bed sobbing, the worst sobbing I've ever heard from her. I decide to give her another chance. Fast forward to today, years 17 to 18. We have been through several counselors. She even moved out for 6 months and we dated to see if we could reconcile. Living together wasn't working as I was having a hard time with all that she did. It also took some time for her to see that online flirting was harmful to a marriage. We've had several close calls of ending it over the last year. She also at one point revealed she had a bad child and teen history before I met her. First time she revealed this to me in 23 years of knowing her. But eventually we worked through it all, and today we are mostly happily married. She says she is in love with me. She made a horrible mistake. She has gone clean and sober. For the most part, she still occasionally has a glass of wine or two. There is no evidence and no gut feeling that she is doing anything behind my back for that entire year. I had a gut feeling based on her behavior. Etc. If you've been through it, you know what I mean. Bottom line is, this marriage is probably saved. Except for one thing, thanks to all the cloud sharing technology provided by Apple. Photo Stream, iPhoto, etc. I got to see probably 90% of what she gave him as far as photos of herself. Chats of theirs she screenshot so she could save for herself. Also saw their chats and pics sent when I broke into her phone. She was very physical. Very, very, very physical with him. With her words. With her pictures. Etc. She is not like that with me. Texting and sending pics had never been a part of our relationship. Although a few years ago, I did try to do that with her. And she showed little to no interest. I told her this bothers me and makes me feel like this is a sham, and that I don't feel like I really even compare to that guy on the internet she loved so much. She said it is different because I'm here, right in front of her, and the online thing was, well, different in that there was always this longing for something that was never fulfilled. She said it would have been different had she met him. Other than the fact that had she done that, we would certainly be divorced. I told her it makes me feel like he was her true soulmate, that she could be so intimate with him. But not with me. Now logically, I know this not to be true, because she and I have shared a life, had kids, been through 22 years of life. Mostly as a happy couple. But logic is very weak in the face of emotion, as we all well know. So she sent me a couple of pictures of herself, T&A, for which I am grateful, but it's nothing like what she gave this guy in loads, and this may seem silly, but I don't like having to ask for it. He never had to. Adding to this, she seems to have absolutely no desires. Maybe once per month. With this guy she was engaging him at least weekly. I am having a hell of a time dealing with this. We will go sometimes a couple of weeks with no intimacy. And that's when these thoughts really kick into my head, when we are intimate. It's not as big a problem, but as I said, she has low desires with me. When, if I bring it up, it turns into a huge fight there with her accusing me of caring about nothing but myself. She's too tired to fight about it anymore. She says over and over again that she wants this marriage to work, and she wants us to be happy together. But we eventually keep ending up at this point where I feel like I'm living in the shadow of her great love. I feel like I'm the one with the problem here. We have seen several counselors together and separate, like I said, and the general advice is get over it. Or that was about her. Not about you, or you have to forget about it. Try breathing through it until the thought passes. So my questions are, am I overreacting? How can I cope with these feelings better? Am I being unfair to her? Am I in this reconciliation? I thought I was. Maybe I'm not as much as I should be to make it work. I would like to be. Is it my attitude or expectations that make you question it? To hear her tell the story, she was attracted to him because he was, as far as the internet knows, a big bruiser type of guy, like Biff. And she felt like he could protect her better than I could. From what impending danger, I am not certain, and neither was she. She also said he was willing to have rough time with her if they ever met. And apparently that was some sort of fantasy of hers. She would never want that with someone who loves her. Like me, that was apparently not part of the fantasy. So this means she knew the guy didn't love her, and she admitted as much. She pursued him completely. He could take or leave her at any time. She admitted all of this to me. I was attracted to that passion I saw from her. You have to realize that I had watched her be bedridden for at least a year with depression. The truth is, she seemed so alive pursuing this guy, that aliveness was attractive. And yes, the physical part of that was very attractive. I guess you could say I feel competitive. That is my nature. But you have made some good points for me to think about. I know I can't compete with a fantasy. She is easily stressed, by work, by anxiety, and by this whole thing. I don't think the lack of giving is because of anything more than that at this point. Exhaustion from being stressed, by everything, but the bottom line is like you say. Is what she has to give enough for me? Don't know yet. The original questions I have are about how I feel about this. How I feel about myself in this context, i.e., can I live with being what I am in this relationship given the past, if she was someone I just met without that 1 year of our history? I wouldn't complain. I feel very loved by her, so I feel like the options are 1. Drop everything, halt the progress we have made thus far and divorce her. 2. Wait for her to have that passion for me where I feel like I'm not standing in the shadow of a fantasy. 3. Brainwash myself to never think about it again. The thing about waiting for her to have passion for me, I have seen it from her. It comes and goes, probably just like every woman who has been married as long as we have. Verbally she says I'm handsome and all that. The reality is, I'm not a slouch. I have no reason to feel inadequate. Logically I know this. I am a competitive power lifter and keep myself in good shape. I'm muscular and well-groomed. I have a stable career. Never been unemployed and earn a six-figure salary. I have tattoos, which she loves. When I was on the market, I was deemed a good catch by plenty of women. I have no reason to feel threatened by some slob on the internet. My wife sees all of that. The year she went off the reservation, she refers to as her being sick. She readily admits she was crazy. She is remorseful. She is sad about all of it. She has a hard time forgiving herself. Her decision to actually act on her fantasy with someone else. I would chalk that up to the combination of our deep, chronic disconnect, her fear of confrontation, her depression, and her choice of meds. Not a good formula for good decision-making. That is not to excuse what she did, merely my view of it and a logical understanding. What I fear is this: while she has passion for me, it's not like what I saw her give out elsewhere. Unfortunately, what I saw was an unrealistic scenario unfold out of her head and onto the internet, directed at some random guy. As People points out, not every wife tells their husband everything, including their innermost fantasies. How would every husband react to knowing their wife fantasizes about men that aren't them? Probably everyone knows it happens and blows it off. Now imagine you saw it, witnessed in the raw. In her own words and pictures. Not so easy to blow off. That's pretty much it, and in the wake of all that, the devastation it caused, she was disgusted by it. We are trying to navigate through that to something healthy. My problem is, I feel I may screw it up by wanting something that isn't realistic. Now that I've seen what's in her head. The thing that most wives probably keep to themselves. As for all the other stuff, she is getting help with all of it. She doesn't drink anymore. She is exercising. She is eating better. Taking vitamins advised by her doctor for deficiencies revealed in blood work. Like, she is taking the steps toward getting healthy. She has no reason at this point to lie to me. We've been separated already. We could do it again, no sweat. She lived in her own apartment for 6 months. There is nothing keeping her with me other than how she feels about me, while her job is stressful. She makes plenty of money on her own. She doesn't need the money I make to sustain her current lifestyle. She's also beautiful enough that she'd have no problem finding another dude to have a relationship with. On top of that, I would be able to tell if she was just playing me. I knew the whole year she was playing me when it was happening. I never trusted that she wasn't after the first time I found out. She gave plenty of behavioral cues. So I knew, that's the gut feeling I mentioned earlier. The reason it went on so long without me knowing was it took a while for me to find the physical evidence each time. You can't know something for sure until there is physical proof in your hands. I had to do my due diligence to snoop, learn passwords and whatnot. And that wasn't instantaneous. Now, that isn't an issue. I have free access to everything I want, anytime I want in that regard. I have asserted several times to her that she is not into me. Her response is, that was a fantasy made up in my head. It was not real. You are a real-life person. It is different, I'm paraphrasing, but really, I think every husband wants the high-octane version of their wife's fantasy played out for them. Like you pointed out though, it's not always revealed to the husband. For whatever reason, maybe it's embarrassing or whatever. In her case, her fantasy involved being demeaned and degraded. Being physically exed by someone while sleeping together. She told me this is not a fantasy she wants played out by someone who loves her. Like me, I've asked her if that is still her fantasy, and she says no. Part of her self-work was to understand why she would want that kind of thing. I'm not a psychologist myself. But that I have to think it has to be linked somehow to low self-esteem, and the low self-esteem has to be linked to what she refers to as her year in bed. The year prior. I don't think she had any self-respect at the time of the affair. As far as desires, it seems like she's only into it once or twice per month to me. Some months may be more. I'm not keeping a log. I'm sure my inability to deal with all this has affected her desires for me. thus. Why I'd like to be able to just dispense with these feelings of being in a shadow of fantasy already. She says she can sense that I still have problems, and it is difficult to feel hot for someone she feels scrutinized by. I can understand it. I'm not sure I want to have bond with anyone who isn't mentally into it anyway. She says it's what she wants. I talked to her about all of this last night. We bonded last night as a matter of fact after talking about it. She isn't feeling her best self these days because she has gained some weight in the past year. Although I don't mind, but she does, and that matters a great deal of course. She also said she thinks it's something that will grow from where we are now. But will probably take some time. I really don't want to manipulate her into something that she doesn't want to do. That wouldn't be very satisfying, and if all that mattered to me in a marriage was bonding, I wouldn't be married. There is too much overhead to marriage for something you can have without being married. Marriage isn't easy, but obviously has its rewards, and it's not all about getting off for me. I hope I haven't come across that way. I'm married to my wife at this point because I love and care about her. I lust after her as well, but that's not the most important thing. It is important, but not all important. My comment: what was your marriage like after the affair? Did it get better in the end? Comment down below, sub and bell, and I'm going to make some cookies.